clouds overhead, sunshine as well in the Lone Star State of Texas, and it is nearly time for race 2 of the weekend for GT America, powered by AWS. Welcome to Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas. It's already a warm day in the central part of the state, 32 degrees Celsius, temperatures approaching the 80s on the Fahrenheit scale, and quite humid as well. Makes for a challenge even over a 40-minute sprint. As we see in this series, that's the pole sitter Justin Rothberg getting limbered up, about to climb aboard his Turner BMW. Hey everybody, my name is Ryan Marine. Alongside is Calvin Fish, and it's Amanda Busick down in the pits. Calvin, a lot of fun yesterday across multiple series, but GT America as well, producing some fireworks, and we're about ready to go for race 2.
Yeah, it was a fun race yesterday. Kyle Washington having a brilliant victory, and with that, has really closed the gap in that championship. Rothberg on the pole here today. He is the championship leader based on sweeping both rounds at Long Beach, of course, but it is tightening up. Only 2 points between those two drivers now.
Really close indeed, and this is a championship that has gone down to the wire a time or two in the past. Mark Muzzo back on the grid here after skipping the round at Long Beach. Great to have Mark jumping in for more or less the full season with the R Ferry team, and a couple of other new faces as well, including this one, Joel Cortez from Mexico, driving for the local S's Racing team. He's got a lot of laps around Circuit of the Americas. Fantastic addition to the grid. Same for John Manship, who's here with Wright Motorsports. And in GT4, it might be light in numbers, but we had some fantastic battles yesterday. A last lap pass gave Anthony McIntosh a hard-earned victory, but he'll have to come from second on the grid here in race 2. Down to the grid now to check in with third member of the team. Good morning to Amanda Busick.
Good morning, guys, and if yesterday was Super Saturday, say hello to Soulful Sunday down here for mixed class racing of this GT3 and GT4 machinery that's ready to fill the skies with the sounds of this horsepower. You look at the grid that we have today, 5 different manufacturers are represented in the top 5, but one guy is missing here today, and that is Elias Sabo, who yesterday set the fastest lap, who would have been on pole here today. I was told that there was a work assignment that Elias had to attend to this morning, but we will see him later this afternoon in the GT World Challenge race alongside Andy Lee. I want to go to that battle we saw yesterday in GT4 with Max Hewitt and Tony McIntosh. I was talking to Max this morning, and he was talking about his development and getting used to this mixed class racing, and said that he's got to focus on that traffic coming through. That's where he lost that gap, and where McIntosh was able to make that move on Max, but was so happy to give all the fans a good battle yesterday. I think that was our winner yesterday, flashing our lights. He's ready to go as ever. Kyle Washington making a name for himself this season. 2 wins and looking to extend that points lead.
Yeah, he's been outstanding, Kyle Washington, to start the season. But back to the point Amanda made about Max Hewitt, it's a good one. He comes from single-seater racing, from single-make racing. This is the first time he's had to deal with a faster class coming through in the majority of his career, and so there is a lesson to be learned there, and it certainly caught him out yesterday, but he can take that now and move forward.
Well, that's the great thing with doubleheader weekends. You can reflect on things from the first day, chew on it overnight, maybe adjust the car a little bit. It's a little bit cooler here in terms of race conditions versus what we saw yesterday afternoon, where it certainly got a little bit sunnier, and the track temperature had heated up a little bit. So you got to adjust your race cars accordingly, but it's been a great battle. They've really shared the wins. They've been first and second in the 3 rounds that they've competed in so far this championship season.
Got a glimpse a moment ago of the Ski Autosports Audi. Welcome back to the team, and welcome back to the championship, 2023 champion Memo Gidley. Fantastic to have that team and car back on the grid, and now welcoming in a former championship rival as a driver. Now he fits in really nicely. Memo and that operation seemed to be a really good fit.
Yeah, they went head-to-head with him in 2023, but they still liked him. And that's the good news, that the Hussies felt that he'd be a great fit with Johnny O'Connell's injury. Got news this morning that Johnny O'Connell is going to go through surgery later in May, so that's great news. He still hopes to race again, so we hope to see Johnny O'Connell back on our grids. But in the meantime, Memo, what a great fill-in, and broke through with a nice podium run yesterday. But Roche West, that number 50 Corvette, was really putting the heat on towards the end of that race.
He certainly was. He'll have a front row start thanks to Elias Sabo withdrawing from today's race, and that's a real shame because that car was really quick. They had a penalty yesterday that cost him dearly, but he would have been on pole position had he taken the start. That said, Ross has shown really good pace, and his duel with Mabel yesterday was a really thrilling part of that 40-minute race number 1. Back to Amanda, more news from the pit lane.
Well, the best news is that engines just fired down here as we get ready for race number 2. But I'm sitting next to Melissa Hussey. We were just talking about Mamo Gidley on the broadcast. Why was he your choice?
We were fortunate enough to get to know Memo a couple of years ago when he won the championship, and always hoped that we would be able to do something with him. And the opportunity with Johnny having an injury this year came up, and he agreed to drive for us. He was our only choice.
We talk about you and Kent on the show often about ski auto sports and Spin the Kids inheritance. What got you into racing?
My dad was always a big fan of racing, and Kent was a vintage racer for many years. And when we were working, we sponsored IndyCar teams, NASCAR teams, and never did anything as car owners, and finally decided we'd try this.
We love seeing you guys out here. And guys, I will tell you, there were a couple adjustments to that Audi overnight. I was told that Mamo was looking for a little bit more front grip in that Audi. There was a ride height adjustment and a few other tweaks to that Audi today.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. And tell Kent belated happy birthday. I think he celebrated his birthday on Friday. But that car, a little slow getting off the grid. It should be able to take its position, I thought, but maybe we'll get to that in a moment. Meanwhile, let's look at the starting grid as it was intended to be. Rothberg on pole, Ross Schwest alongside. Then it's Kyle Washington and Mamo Gidley there in row 2. Back in row 3, our Ferry Motorsport, the team out of Canada with Mark Muzzo behind the wheel, Joe Cortez for SS Racing, and John Manship at the back of the SRO 3 field with Wright Motorsports. Max Hewitt on pole position in GT4. Tony McIntosh will start second, then Denny Stripling and Michael Oriema, fresh off of a long run yesterday. So was Anthony McIntosh in that 3-hour endurance race for Pirelli GT4 America that went into the twilight last night. So an early wake-up call to be ready to go here this morning.
Yeah, and talking about those adjustments, what Amanda was alluding to, some understeer in that Audi, and what you can do regarding changing the front ride height. If you drop the front down a little bit, it makes it a little bit more aero efficient. Could give Mamo a little bit of grip. Now, he was last away, so I think there's a nuance. If you're delayed in getting out of pit lane, you can reassume your original grid position. I think if you're last away, I think he has to go to the tail end of the class, but we'll wait and see. I see him at the back of the pack right now versus moving through that GT or SRO 3 field.
Yeah, you're right. He is at the back of the class. Of course, Calvin's on top of the rules as usual, so it makes the job a little bit more difficult for Mamo Gidley.
Look at Rosella this morning.
Yeah, she's in fine Texas form.
We need to get Phil Creighton with one of those on. Pay a lot of money to see that.
Yeah.
That'll be payback. They've actually got an image that was created, unfortunately, many years ago with me in a set of leathers from my karting days with a cowboy hat on, and it still exists in their trailer, so
I've seen
payback would be a beautiful
of
thing.
This masterpiece. It is something to behold, that's for sure. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Amanda reporting potential clutch issues for Mamo Gidley as he tried to pull away off of the grid, and now as a consequence, we'll have to take the start from the back of the SRO 3 field, as Calvin chronicled. Field coming into alignment at the end of this first formation lap. We're about to turn them loose for the second time this weekend. 40 minutes, the race distance, multiple classes, SRO 3 and GT4. Here comes the field around turn number 20, and now you have to wait patiently because the green flag is waved at a different place than the checkered flag here at Circuit of the Americas. The front row, the BMW, Justin Rothberg is the Rova Pole Award winner. He approaches the VP acceleration zone and then steps on the loud pedal. There's the green flag. Rothberg accelerates away. Schwest coming under attack from the winner yesterday. Kyle Washington able to grab that second spot, but Schwest counterattacks. He gets back to the inside.
Yeah, he really did. Nice job there by Kyle by getting control as he made that late braking. You see Mamo Gidley making some early moves there as he exits turn 1. He's immediately up to 5th position, but a great start for our pole sitter.
Mamo dispatched of the 2 Porsches and now sets off in pursuit of Mark Muzzo in the Ferrari 296. So only down 1 spot from where he should have been on the grid had they not had that issue leaving the pit lane. Rothberg leads, Kyle Washington second, then Schwest, Muzzo, and Gidley the top 5.
Yeah, Mutsu doing a nice job holding off Mamo Goodley here. One of the good who are taking opportunities is this next corner coming up on the plunge down the hill into turn 11. Does Mamo feel he's got the grip in those tires to make that move? Slides it down to the inside. Heads for the apex, let that ABS kick in if you need it, and then hard on the power coming off turn 11.
All that experience over the years, single-seater, sports cars, you name it, but Mutsu will fight back. Got a nice run out of turn 11. He gets to the side of that Audi. He'll have the inside line now for the hairpin at turn 12. Can Mamo Goodley roll that speed around the outside, or will he have to relinquish the position?
Yeah, I think he's going to try and do the crossover here. Mutsu very late on the brakes, and Mamo does the crossover. Can he get to the high side here as they get into turn 13? Nip and tuck. This is the stadium section. Great racing there. Mamo dives for the inside for 15.
Gets down to the apex, neat and tidy. Mamo Goodley up another spot from the back of the class up to 4th, and now he'll have to try and chase down Rothberg and Schwest as well as Washington.
Schwest has dropped off that lead battle a little bit here. Rothberg looks comfortable up front. There's Washington, and they are only separated by a couple of points in the championship.
This could very well be the championship battle here in 2025. Rothberg denied the title by a single point last year. Kyle Washington, though, in fine form, driving the best that he has in his sports car racing career. Oh, look at this. He's feeling it here early this morning, already looking very aggressive, filling up the mirrors of the BMW.
Yeah, got to be careful. That's really a no-go through that sector. You're going to tag someone and send them for a ride, so he has to give it up a little bit. Sweeping through these S's, you're going to get a little bit of aero wash from that car in front of you, punching a hole in the air and taking that aero efficiency on the front end of that Porsche.
Kyle had a disappointing opening race of the season, only finished 6th, but then won in really difficult conditions in race 2 at Sonoma, a pair of seconds at Long Beach, and the win yesterday. So over the last 4 races, he's finished no worse than 2nd, and he's got designs on taking the lead and maybe sweeping the weekend right here at COTA.
Yeah, both drivers very different in their approach to this 2025 season. Justin Rothberg did not drive a race car between the checkered flag at Indy and rocking up at Sonoma a few weeks ago, whereas Kyle has kept himself very busy. GMG are now based at the Thermal racetrack, and they're out on a regular basis giving him laps, and he's coming to this season in fine form.
Joel Cortez looking strong here on day number 2 as he makes the step into GT3 racing. Longtime single-make Porsche racer with this SS Racing team, which is located just down the road.
Got to show so much discipline with your line and your throttle application through these very slow corners. Then it ramps up, climbs the hill a little bit through 16, 17, 18. Then the road falls away right here. And that's the kind of adjustment phase with the throttle. A little breathe and then back to a beautiful flow through here through 19. Watch the track limits on the exit there. Final corner coming up. Important one to get that launch and up this front stretch.
Cortez from Monterrey, Mexico. Last couple of seasons ran partial schedules in Porsche Sprint Challenge, primarily the USA West division. Meanwhile, Mutsu comes from single-make Ferrari racing. Plenty of experience under his belt. Back to the pits for another report from Amanda.
Ryan, you talk about Joe Cortez and his experience here at the Circuit of Americas. He's also brought along experience with him in the form of a driver coach, Adam Carroll, working with him this weekend. When you think of the development of a driver, especially at this stage of their career, how crucial is that relationship with driver coach?
Oh, it's so important, and we see so many fine drivers in our paddock working with gentleman drivers who don't have a ton of experience, so they can really fast-track these drivers through. They'll typically do a few laps in the race car, a test session, really set a data lap for them to try and mimic and cut and paste their performance over the top of it. So it's a huge help, and Adam's one of the best. So they've certainly got some great people amongst that group there at SS Racing.
Yeah, Adam's a veteran from Northern Ireland, raced for the team in a partial schedule last year, and he's also involved in coaching Stingray Robb in the IndyCar series. And Stingray just had a fantastic run. I think it matched a career best.
Top 10, right?
Yeah, 9th place, I think, at Long Beach the last time out. Now, the connection there is the team boss at SS Racing, Dave O'Neill, who also has a management role with Juncos Hollinger Racing, who Stingray Rob drives for in IndyCar. And actually, Adam drove for Dave O'Neill in his career, in his single-seater career, A1GP, I think
That's
it
right,
was.
yeah. I also think his mum did my mum's washing at some point to put it all together here.
There you go. But all of this to say, what a great resource to have on the box.
This is a good little battle here. Look at Kyle Washington, rolling speed there, a little touch through the apex. Loosens up Rothberg. Rothberg trying to defend here, but Kyle Washington has his car alongside. How deep does he push it here? Up into the brake zone. Rothberg goes out wide. Washington heads for the apex. Watch the crossover here on the exit.
Really shallow entry from Kyle Washington, but he does get it woed up. Can he stay alongside? No, he can't. And that lets the BMW sweep back across the bow and take the top spot back.
Fantastic stuff. It just feels like Kyle Washington can roll more apex speed than the BMW, which is more of a point and squirt kind of race car. It's got good top speed, but over the lap, they're very equally matched. Look at Washington really wide through there. He's got to watch the marbles. He doesn't get the tires too dirty there. Will not give you the tire and the grip that you're looking for in the next coming corner, but he's hanging on to it.
These are two drivers that are really coming on strong here early in their sports car racing careers. Rothberg coming out of Ferrari Challenge into GT3 racing last year. Almost came away with 2 championships. He did win the GT World Challenge America Pro-Am title as Will Turner, his team boss, watches on. Meanwhile,
McGregor in the background there, the BMW Motorsports manager here. He's enjoying what he's seeing. I'm not sure whether Will like that little touch that he got from the GMG machine on that previous run through turn 20.
Washington, for his part, is a graduate up from single make racing, GT4 racing, and now has been at the GT3 level for a couple of years. And all of a sudden, the wins are starting to come. Had that one breakthrough win at VIR and GT World Challenge America a year ago. And this year, keep an eye out, not just here in GT America, but also in the 2-driver format. Tom Sargent qualified this, or the sister car to this, on the front row for the big race later on today.
Yeah, well, that's the irony. They're actually going to be matched up. They're on the front row, both of these drivers in different race cars, and obviously with co-drivers for this afternoon's big race. So this is a fun battle. GMG have certainly got this Porsche really handling well here this weekend. He's got a good run again. He really rolls speed there through turn 20. That means he can be a little bit earlier to the power. He's got his hands straighter. Washington is really hooked up. Does he dive for the apex once again? Rothberg covers him off a little bit.
In the meantime, Ross Schwest is starting to pick up the pace. He's matching these top 2 and maybe closing in incrementally over the past couple of laps as Washington again takes that unconventional approach. Just filling up the mirrors, maybe trying to force a mistake from the race leader, Justin Rothberg, but he's proven to be fairly unflappable over the course of his brief career.
He really has. He's super poised. He doesn't seem to get flustered, whatever the situation is, whether he's in chase mode or this mode where he's leading a race and trying to hang on to it.
Should also mention the battle in GT4, as much as it was yesterday with Hewitt leading McIntosh, but only by a couple of seconds. They were about that distance or less.
He missed it. Car got in there too deep. Missed his braking point. ABS probably kicked in. That just numbs the braking and the feel on the front end. He had to wait on the race car.
Maybe that opens the door for Schwest to try and close in. But back to GT4, Hewitt and McIntosh were tied together throughout the race, running in this order until about half a lap to go when McIntosh threw the move on Hewitt that gave him ultimately the race win.
Yeah, that little bobble there by Washington cost him 3/10 in sector 2, so he's got to regroup here a little bit, and it seems like he's got speed. He is really pushing the envelope with these lines. Just hanging on to it. Very evenly matched over the lap. Washington does have the fastest lap of the race right now at a 2:07 flat. Rothberg at a 2:07.3, but Schwest a little bit quicker at a 7:2. Gidley now in the 7s as well, but he's got about a 5-second margin to this lead pack right now. He's got to close in on.
Took him some time to get through that traffic. Now he needs to overcome that deficit. Better run now to turn 20 this time for Justin Rothberg. And the BMW InPower down the front straightaway, stout as ever.
Yeah, Porsche's hanging with him, though. I know he's pulling a little bit of a draft and a toe effect up that hill, but even so, there's not much to choose between them. Look at Washington wrestling that Porsche coming through the exit of turn 1.
Mutso hanging with Memo Gidley back in 4th and 5th. Joel Cortez only a second off of that pairing. Could heat up here at a moment's notice, but right now we're fixated by this duel for the lead of the race. Pole sitter Justin Rothberg has led from the drop of the green. Washington got alongside and was briefly ahead, but Rothberg crossed him over, took the top spot back. Now trying to manage this gap for 28 minutes and 20 seconds.
It's going to be a long one, yeah, because Washington has got really good pace. Got to wait and see if the balance falls off on either of these race cars as we get a little bit deeper into this 40-minute sprint race, but nonetheless, they're so evenly matched, but Washington's like a dog with a big juicy steak right in front of him. He wants a piece of that.
Rothberg's last lap was now the new fastest lap of the race. He gets down into 2:06s. Washington, though, just about matched him. He ran a 2:07 flat to the 2:06.9 for Rothberg.
Yeah, and that was with that mistake, that bobble in turn 11 as well, so potentially he's even got a little bit more there.
Two nearly identical through sector 1, nearly identical through sector 2. But I agree, I think Washington might have some pace in hand should he be able to make this pass.
Yeah, he's just confident enough to just really roll the speed through a couple of these low-speed corners, probably carrying a couple of miles an hour more speed there. Got to be careful he doesn't run over the top of the BMW like he almost did a few laps ago.
This is the triumvirate I mentioned earlier. Gidley in the Audi, Mutso in the Ferrari, and then the Porsche of Joel Cortez. About a half a second separating each of these three cars.
And let's put this in perspective. Cortez's fastest lap is only 6/10 off the fastest lap of the day right now, set by Rothberg, so they are absolutely flying here, the home-based team.
Plenty of track knowledge for team and driver alike. I met Joel here, I think it was last year, during a Porsche Sprint Challenge weekend, and asked him, because he was cherry-picking races, so, why'd you choose this one? Well, why not? Circuit of the Americas. Race Vision powered by AWS, Cortez, Rothberg, Mutso, Washington, all topping out at 157 miles per hour. Schwess just 1 mile per hour down. What you love to see about that's 4 different brands in the top 5 with effectively identical top speeds.
Yeah, it's very evenly matched here. Done a great job with the balance of performance and the technical regs to keep all of these manufacturers close together.
Not an easy job, especially when you compare and contrast the likes of BMW to what I think would be fair to say, the more sleek layout of, say, a Ferrari 296. Somehow making them all work together, different engine displacement, turbocharged versus naturally aspirated power plants as well. It's a real black art, but the SRO staff has really pioneered that over the years. As we check in now with GT4, it's Max Hewitt building a gap, which is not something we've been able to say, really, over the course of this weekend. It's 2.5 seconds or so.
His fast lap is some 7/10 quicker than the chasing
McIntosh. Yeah, occasional little timing glitches there, flipping their positions. But as you can see on track, it's Aston leading Supra.
I think McIntosh hasn't given up, and he's hoping that maybe that Aston Martin backs up to him a little bit as we get deeper into this race. Maybe they just started the tire pressures a little bit lower on this Supra, and they're gradually getting into their sweet spot.
Look at the diffuser on the back. It looked like it was bound.
Oh,
it's not the diffusers, it's the exhaust.
Yeah,
there's not really much of a diffuser on a GT4 car. So, but yeah, that certainly can't be helping their cause.
Well, depends if it's cracked. It could be affecting his power a little bit, and I'm not sure it's going to hang on if he starts to use those curbs like he is doing, and that's just going to rattle that thing apart and potentially come off, which is not great news in terms of debris on the racetrack, but be affecting his pace too much at this stage of the game, but I just wonder if he's just run over one of these curves a little bit too aggressively, and that's broken that clamp that holds that in position.
Yeah, there are some big curves at the apex.
Now it's fired it back up. Maybe it's locked it in a position there. See that?
Wow. If you tried that 100 times, maybe it works one, right?
Yeah, let's see if the next curve releases it once again.
Let's take a look at this again.
Boom.
That is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
Charge you $150 an hour at this dealership to do that.
Unreal. Okay, well, have at it now,
back
Tony.
down again.
Oh, it fell back down?
Yeah, it did. This is a great battle, though. I mean, Cortez and Muzzo are really putting the pressure on Gidley. Gidley's going to have to use every ounce of his experience like he did yesterday, which was to hold on to P3. Now it's P4. We're starting at the tail end of this SRO 3 pack with the issue on pit lane getting going.
This is great validation for Muzzo and Cortez, hanging right there with a former series champion, driver with so much accomplishment across multiple disciplines. Ooh, Denny Stripling with an issue. Quickly spins that BMW around. That chassis just contested the 3-hour race last night. Had a really good run in the M class.
Did, finished on the podium. That was great. Second, I think.
That sounds right. I should remember it was less than 12 hours ago, but
it's a long day yesterday.
Was
but
indeed.
A fun one.
And let's see if we can figure out what happened.
Just too much curbage.
Yep, that's one of those pyramids at the apex that is there to dissuade you from using too much of it, but
it's right there. That's the corner where the leaders are now going through. Use it a little bit, but he's just too much on top of it and just bottomed out and turned him around. Rothberg continues to set new fastest laps of the day. 206.7 is the new marker, but Washington is not letting him go, but he doesn't seem as threatening right now.
Approaching the halfway mark, we saw Tony McIntosh dealing with that loose exhaust. He's actually reeled back in Max Hewitt, only a second, or actually less than a second now behind, but Amanda's got more on that story.
Yeah, I got over to JTR, and there was some laughs coming from the team as well. They are going to keep him out there and see if he can keep using that curbing as a little bit of a track mechanic, but said there's nothing really of damage that could happen underneath the rear of that Supra. So hopefully he can reel him back in, and we'll have the battle that we saw yesterday, guys.
It's looking that way. McIntosh has his head down. He's turned in some really good laps as of late, and what was 2.5 seconds, he's down under 1 now.
He said that exhaust doesn't seem to be stymieing his performance at all. If it falls off, it could be a totally different deal in terms of the back pressure with the exhaust system and everything else, but if it keeps it together, and it's going to be a long ride. It's certainly built well. I mean, the clamp has failed, but the rest of the exhaust system is amazing that it's hanging on here for so many laps.
What kind of noises
and
sensations is that giving in the car?
It's probably crazy. Probably wondering what's going on. The team has probably alerted him to exactly what the scenario is, so he's just got to focus forward and ignore the noise.
You ever have any strange issues like this that you've had to drive through?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it yesterday in the 3-hour pickup and stuff. A lot of times you can get pickup on the tires. That just fires it up into the inner fender wall. That suddenly drops down. You literally feel like the suspension just broke. It can be such a dramatic noise, so you just got to feel it out. Don't panic. You know, obviously drive accordingly with a little bit of caution, but just get back on with it. And hopefully it's nothing too dramatic, but yeah, it certainly can send you a bit of a curveball psychologically.
These two, first and second, in GT4. Denny Stripling we saw have the spin, but good to have the McKinney, Texas native back for another go-round. Veteran of SCCA club racing over the years. He's made sporadic starts here in SRO and has actually done some racing on the Nürburgring as well in LS. Back to the front. Nothing much has changed here.
Here we go. Kyle is feeling it. He wants a bite. He is gnawing at the tail there of Justin Rothberg. He's got close enough now where he feels he can have a little dive. I don't think he thinks about things like the big picture of a championship right now, or maybe he does and realizes if he gets the track position, that'll give him the lead heading to Sebring in 3 weeks' time.
Rothberg's tidied this corner up. Remember a couple of times where he had a few little bobbles and that left him vulnerable to Washington, but it seems like he settled it down.
Yeah, it seems like he's carrying a bit more speed, and his car is coming to life a little bit through the lower speed corners, taking away some of the advantage that I think we were seeing from Kyle's early laps there.
How much does this take out of the Pirellis as well, running this close in the wake of another car?
Well, certainly, you know, the aero wash is going to affect the nose of the car typically, so if you got a lot of understeer, it depends what the balance is already. Sometimes if you got a car that's a little bit neutral and a little bit loose, you can actually oh, big dive. Woo! Very unconventional, but I don't think Kyle Washington worries about being conventional in his attack mode here.
No, he is not backward about coming forward, that is for sure. And if there is a gap, you know Kyle will try to fill it. He smells blood in the water. This is the most aggressive posturing we've seen out of the car in some time.
This is an ideal racetrack for Kyle Washington's personality. No rules, just right.
Run down to turn number 12.
Touching 160 plus possibly in the draft. Washington deep on the brakes. He goes for the outside. He's going to have the inside for the upcoming corner. Can he make it stick?
Washington to the inside, and Rothberg simply has to try the crossover. Can Washington cover it off? It looks like he can. Tell you what, Kyle Washington worked on that for about 23 minutes. Finally was able to solve the riddle, and he is through. Put the Porsche to the point now. That's the team reaction.
Tom Sargent right there. 23-year-old Aussie who'll team up with Kyle this afternoon. They love that.
This could be a big day for this team as well, with front row start coming up in the GT World Challenge America race, courtesy of the Aussie Tom Sargent. It was Anzac Day on Friday, big day of remembrance for Aussies and Kiwis. Special weekend for Tom if he were able to help Kyle Washington pick up a couple of wins here in GT America as well.
Traffic up ahead here. Could this play a part in this race for the overall lead? That was a lovely move by Kyle. I think Rothberg thought, I got him covered. I'm just going to park at apex, but Kyle said, no way, I'm going to go around the outside, and it was really nicely judged to stay within the track limits as well.
Fantastic driving from Kyle Washington, and Amanda has more on him.
I think this goes to what we were talking about at the podium celebration yesterday, just the trust that Kyle Washington has in himself and in his Porsche right now. I was just talking to Tom Sargent, and I asked, what are you feeding Kyle right now? And he's like, we have said nothing to him during this race, and he hasn't said anything either. So you're watching the work of Kyle Washington out there right now.
Oh, he understood there, got in a little bit deep, lost the front end, lost his exit speed. This is going to give Rothberg a bit of a run.
How much of a run? Can he get close enough?
You talked about maybe, you know, with the BMW, did it overwork those front tires for Washington? He definitely lost the front end there, just carried a bit too much speed.
But he has a buffer into the brake zone for 12. Rothberg can't get alongside. Porsche pretty stout through this section right here.
Can't remember too many times over the last 18 months where we've seen Rothberg be passed, other than with, you know, maybe in the Pro-Am situation with the Pro coming through the field, but Am to Am, maybe a first.
Speaks to just how well Kyle Washington is driving. He drank his e-boost this morning.
I'm not sure he needs e-boost. He's hyped up enough.
Well, GMG has Kyle Washington now at the forefront. Front row start, converted now to the lead of the race, and he just needs to hang on for another 14 minutes and 20 seconds. Rothberg coming to life a little bit though, even though he did get dropped down to second place. And these two, over the last 10 minutes, have had the pace advantage over Ross Schwest, but Ross is having a really solid run in that third spot, and I think this would be his first ever GT3 podium if he were able to hang on.
Yeah, he's having a really nice run. I'm sure he'd like to be duking it out with these two leaders right now, but nonetheless, he's got about 2.5 second gap over Gidley that you see in the backdrop there coming through the S's. Gidley has gapped Cortez a little bit and Muzo a little bit over the last few laps, built about a 2.5 second lead. Here we go, side by side. Rothberg wedges that BMW down around the outside of one corner for the inside for the next and takes the position back.
Oh, that is outstanding. Justin Rothberg saw the opportunity and jumped. Kyle won't like that one bit. Now he's looking to counterattack.
See the understeer once again there from Kyle Washington. Has the balance gone away? Is he fighting the race car right now? That is a beautiful move there by Rothberg. Fantastic.
He didn't cut the course.
Justin Rothberg, after losing the lead, it only took him, what, a lap? Half a lap to get it back. Sat there patiently behind Kyle, looking for a weakness. Now maybe that all that effort, that exertion, has taken something out of the tires for Kyle Washington.
Certainly there's a lot of real estate around this racetrack to work with, and Rothberg was definitely utilizing every inch of it there, coming through the S's. Not sure he was out of bounds at any point in that move, but I'm sure the stewards will be looking at it just to make sure. They've gone in the habit, if there was an infraction there, maybe get the position back, but so far, I think he's good to go.
Washington was judged to have taken a shortcut on this lap, so really no sanction.
That up. It was a couple of corners prior to where Rothberg made the move, so maybe he had a little mistake there, and that's what gave Rothberg the run.
That seems like a solid theory. No penalty for that, just the lap would be invalidated for purposes of evaluating fast lap and things of that nature.
Two great moves, just really showcases the progress and the racecraft of both of these drivers over the last year or so. Washington just really pushing. I think he's just asking a bit too much of that race car at times. But he just hangs with it. He's a brave man.
Kyle has a lot of off-road racing experience. Need a certain boldness for that form of the sport. It's transitioned into his driving style in GTs as well, but he does seem to have smoothed out a little bit over the last couple of years, and with that, the speed and consistency has started to creep up. That's netted him all these strong results here recently.
Yeah, the little bobbles become smaller. You know what I mean? You recognize the mistake if you're offline and you just don't ride it out quite as much, and you're just a little bit more refined with your driving style, and that comes from great coaching from guys like Tom Sargent, in Kyle Washington's case, from Robbie Foley, in Justin Rothberg's case, and it's just managing that talent and showcasing where is efficient and where it is not, to just push, push, push.
Hewitt and McIntosh. That's
They're still hanging on there.
Yes.
Whatever that's made of, that is optimal.
Might have done some damage though now, bouncing around. You can see some of the bodywork loose. I don't remember seeing that in the past, and so with that big exhaust pipe getting knocked up into the air, up over the curbs and into the under tray, the underbody of the Supra, that does seem to have taken a toll.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, you're going forward and dragging that exhaust back away from that rear tire. I'm not sure if under braking is getting close to that. It shouldn't really create an issue that would unsettle the race car in terms of getting into that rear tire, but it's not ideal.
Inside the final 10 minutes, Ross Schwest running a solid third. Chance to head back to the pits and get an update now with Amanda.
Hey guys, yeah, I was watching here on the front stretch, and the GT4 class was taking to turn one as the GT3 machining was rounding out here on the front stretch. So we're going to get to that traffic situation that Max Hewitt was talking about coming up here shortly. He was telling me and thinking through how he's going to adjust himself this time around, while he knows that the GT3 machinery has more speed, more horsepower, he wants to make sure that he defends his race as well. So this mixed class racing gives us those kind of lessons as drivers, and Max wants to make sure he doesn't let that lead slip away today.
Thanks to buildup. That was a big part of the story yesterday. These leaders should be catching the GT4 leaders in the next lap or so.
Yeah, they're just a couple of corners ahead. This is how it gets set up here. That was beautiful. I mean, it just looked like Rothberg positioned that car to the outside of him through the right-hander and had the inside line for the upcoming corner, and that's what this racetrack allows you to do. Now he's gap washed in a little bit. Yeah, I just think Kyle's car's gone away from him a little bit. I think, to your point, could have been running in that aero wash for so long. I just think he's lost the front end a little bit. That just takes an adjustment in the race car. You can maybe put a little bit more rear brake bias in it to try and get the car to rotate a little bit more on entry. Just be a bit more patient with how hard you're shoving the car into the entry as well. And use your speed.
Conversely, Ross Schwest has been in clean air this whole race. He just turned the race's fastest lap the last time by. His most recent lap also a 2:06.6. That's half a second faster than this top two. The question is, does he have enough time to get there? But Ross Schwest in this Corvette is reeling in Justin Rothberg and Kyle Washington.
Great point. He's now just 2.1 seconds behind, and his last lap was 1 second faster than Kyle Washington. So Washington's got to get the memo here from the pit wall. Yes, you want to win this race, but don't overdrive the car to the point that you're going to allow Ross Schwest to steal P2 away from you.
And Ross looked super strong at the end of the run yesterday, if you recall, in that duel he had with Memo Gidley. So maybe the Schwest-Povolato team set this car up to maybe give up a little pace early, but be strong at the end when it matters. And Ross was driving with a lot of confidence in that duel. Didn't end up winning it, but was making Memo work hard to stand on the podium.
Yeah, and this team is a great little team put together with Ross Schwest and Aaron Povolato, of course, and they're learning a lot. Let's not forget this is a brand new race car for these guys this year, and looks like through traffic there that Washington has not had a good run, and Rothberg has really gapped him quite a bit here.
Rothberg to the inside of the GT4 leader Hewitt.
Yeah, it's about 3/4 of a second right there that Washington lost to Rothberg in that traffic scenario.
And to Schwest as well. It just brings Ross a little bit closer, but now Ross catches Tony McIntosh here in the tight, twisty stuff. Even with all the extra downforce and driver aids, everything that you get with a GT3 car relative to a GT4, it's not an easy place to overtake without losing some time.
Okay, a bit of a reset here for Kyle Washington. I think he's just got to calm down his entry a little bit and let the car come to him a bit more. Super impressive drive by both of these guys, and for Ross Schwest as well. He's really on the charge here through the last phase of this race.
Oh, this is tight. Hewitt, as Amanda talked about, really not wanting to compromise too much because that cost him potentially the race win yesterday. That definitely was suboptimal for both Schwest and Hewitt there through turn 20. But 5.5 minutes to go. Looking at a couple more, 3 more laps, 2-3 more laps.
Yeah, I think you'll be looking at 3 more laps to get us to the checkered flag here today. So plenty of time for Washington to have a bit of a reset, for Schwest to maybe get to the tail of that Porsche.
Even with the traffic, Schwest was 4/10ths quicker than Washington the last time by, and now they are free of GT4 traffic in all likelihood for the duration. So let's keep an eye on this silver and black Corvette driven by the New Orleans, Louisiana native, Ross Schwest.
Looks like he was a bit more aggressive over the curbs there through 8 and 9 than I'd seen on previous runs. So he's searching, he's digging deep to see if he can find a bit more pace. Sometimes you enter territory or a bump or a curb that you've not really gone over before, and you have to kind of feel that out. You can't just totally commit to it. Maybe he's found a bit more real estate he can work with, and will that result in better lap times?
Washington was so strong for the first 2/3 of this event, but now since Rothberg was able to find the way back by, has not been able to match Justin's pace. This will be a hard-earned win for Justin Rothberg if he holds on. And that's a moment maybe to file away. You know, if these championships come down to a point or two at the end of the season, that bold move and making it work, the difference between first and second in terms of points, it's a pretty big gap. So
7-point swing, 25 for win, 18 for second. He had a 2-point lead coming into this race, so that'll balloon up to double digits heading to Sebring if he can maintain the track position and win here today.
2 laps to go. Rothberg, Washington, Schwest starting to gap out a little bit, looking at the lap times.
Washington last lap, though, a 6.9 compared to a 7.4, so he has settled things down. Not sure if Sargent got on the horn to him and just said, just tidy things up a little bit, reset, we've still got a chance at this. He really seems to be driving with a little bit more discipline here in the last couple of laps.
But does he have enough time? That gap down to 1.3 seconds now. Washington charging. Ran a 26.9 first sector. That was 0.3 better than Rothberg.
Yeah, he's definitely settled things down, maybe made some cockpit adjustments to get that Porsche balance back to him. This isn't over. I thought he basically got to a point where that car was not going to respond to his inputs, but he's made some adjustments, maybe some adjustments with the car itself, and is getting back on. Rothberg cannot afford to relax and just go into cruise mode here to the checkered flag.
Over those curves at corner exit, continuing to push. Sector 2 times should be popping up here in a moment. Micro sector, Washington trimmed off another couple of tenths, down to 1.1 now. Visually, you can see they are closing. Sector 2, pretty similar between these top two.
See Kyle attacking every single brake zone, right on the threshold. I love to see it. Just pushing and asking this car for a little bit more. And he's getting closer now. Oh, and he misses the corner. Just missed it a little bit. That's what we're talking about. That's the discipline, that's the nuance, that's the things you have to tidy up a little bit. Got to regroup once again. That cost him at least a 10th or 2.
But he'll knuckle down and go for it once more. White flag expected next time by. Rothberg leads from Kyle Washington, then Ross Schwest. Memo Gidley has pulled a bit of a gap on Mark Muzzo in that fight for 4th and 5th. Joel Cortez has dropped off that pair. He runs 6th ahead of Manship. It's still Hewitt over McIntosh by under 2 seconds in the GT4 class as the white flag waves here at Circuit of the Americas. Rothberg leads the charge up the hill to turn 1.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's kind of fun to watch Kyle Washington. We said, oh, he's disciplined. He's got it back together. And then within half a lap, he was over the edge again in 2 corners on that lap. So now he's lost a little bit of ground here to the BMW once again.
Up to a 1.5 seconds. Rothberg has managed this beautifully. Hurried and harried for the first 20, 30 minutes of the race. Briefly did give up the lead. But something, and we're not quite sure what, possibly a miscue from Washington, possibly just an opportunistic move from Rothberg, but in any event, it allowed the BMW back through, took the lead, and hasn't looked back.
It's been a great fight. As I said, I really haven't seen Justin Rothberg lose track position very often over the last year and a half that we've been really watching him at this level. And yeah, that was a great way to come back at him. Just a beautifully crafted move there through the S's to get to the outside and then subsequently the inside for the next corner.
Timing and scoring has shown a change of the lead in GT4, but we've also had some sporadic transponder issues, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. It was a last lap pass for the lead yesterday for Tony McIntosh. Here on the final lap, could it be a repeat in race number 2? Now Hewitt is shown back ahead, so it doesn't look like that's the case. Just a couple more corners now for Justin Rothberg, the left-hander here at turn 19, and then on to the pit straightaway. It was hard fought. Kyle Washington made him work for it, but from pole to the checkered flag, Justin Rothberg, Turner Motorsport take Race number 2 at Circuit of the Americas. Washington continues that podium streak. It's now 5 in a row, and Ross West scores his first career GT3 podium, and he does it at Circuit of the Americas. In the meantime, Max Hewitt absorbed the pressure from Tony McIntosh, lost the lead late in the going yesterday, but drove a disciplined race in race number 2. The Van der Stur Racing driver comes through turn 20, and he'll see the checkered flag, picking up another race win here in the GT4 class of GT America, powered by AWS. Tony McIntosh, dragging exhaust pipe and all, comes home second. Denny Stripling, just a little bit down the road, will take third place. Well, fun stuff. Great duel for the win in GT4 yesterday. Today, it was all about the SRO 3 battle with Rothberg and Washington, and at the end, Ross West snuck into the conversation as well. The fun part, as you've said many times, Calvin, of this championship is watching these drivers in their development process, and everybody's on a different schedule, but right now it's converged here where Rothberg and Washington look like they're going to be fighting all season long, and Schwest seems to maybe have unlocked something as well where he can join them. You throw in Gidley into the mix. Cortez showed good pace. Mutso with our ferry.
Races, yeah.
Exactly. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Plus, if Elias Sabo comes back, and we anticipate he will, that's just another contender to throw into the pot.
Yeah, fantastic. I love this championship. Love the format. Love the the experienced guys out there like Gidley and O'Connell, last year's champion, going up against a young gun like Justin Rothberg and a driver like Kyle Washington, who started his racing career a little bit later in life. Really cool stuff.
The way I look at it, you might say, well, O'Connell and Gidley, these are former pro racers that are now bronzes, so they're eligible for this. Is that really what a true amateur gentleman enthusiast really wants to race against? But I think it's kind of like when the NASCAR Cup drivers drop down and race in the lower divisions, and it gives the up-and-comers a standard. It shows them what's possible, and you don't necessarily want it all the time. You don't want a ton of them to come down, but to give them a chance to test their mettle against some real veterans and learn those lessons, I think it's invaluable.
I think it's great because they can learn the speed from their co-drivers and their coaches, but they can learn racecraft from guys like Gidley and O'Connell.
I mean, how much did Rothberg soak up in all those battles with Johnny O last year, right? Fantastic. And he put that on display today. Really good drive from Justin. I don't know. I think Kyle still has to come away pretty happy with the weekend. A win in the second place, led in both races. And maybe the biggest eye-opener is what Ross West and that Schwest Povolator team was able to do. Easily their best showing at this level over the last season plus.
Yeah, really will give them a lot of momentum heading into the rest of the summer season of racing. As we said, we head to Sebring International Raceway in 3 weeks' time. It'll be hot and sticky, even more humid than we got here in Texas.
There's your class winners. Turner Motorsport and Justin Rothberg winning in SRO 3. Max Hewitt and Tony McIntosh splitting the weekend as they did at Sonoma. Hewitt comes out on top in race number 2. Great job by that young man for Van der Stur Racing. Results from our second race of the weekend, but 6th of the season. Let's not forget, this championship has run 2 additional races, having been part of the Long Beach Grand Prix a few weeks ago. So when we're talking championships, it's not premature at this stage. We're a good chunk into the year.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great battle. Rothberg will extend that small lead that he had this morning, so he'll be happy with that. And we're going to see these two guys battling out. Well, those top 3 guys actually battling out this afternoon alongside their teammates as well in GT World Challenge action.
Yeah, a little appetizer for the 90-minute main course. There's Rothberg in the pits. Or in victory lane, rather.
That one.
Pardon?
He had to enjoy that one, I would think.
Yes. Yeah. When you had to fight for the win, I suspect it's that little bit more gratifying, right? Rather than just pure domination when you've got the advantage.
Yeah, and I think that little love tap fired him up a little bit that he got through turn 20 early in the race.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to play those games? I'm up for that.
But good respect between the two as well, and it's shaping up to be a really fun season in SRO 3. There is Max Hewitt climbing out of his Aston. And we'll have a chance now to hear from our winners. Amanda Busick is standing by.
Well, Justin, that was entertaining. I'm assuming it was for you as well. I was talking to your dad just right after your race went, and I said, how do you describe Justin's competitiveness? And he said he truly loves this racing thing. What kicks in for you, especially with that move back on Kyle Washington?
That was one of the most fun races I've had in a while. Kyle was in my mirrors the entire time, putting great pressure on me. And then he got by me with a nice move, and we traded back. I mean, that's like what you want in racing. It's not ideal to get past, but when it's really fun racing like that you can learn from, it's great.
Congratulations to Justin on the win as we move over to Max Hewitt. I'm going to try to get an interview with Kyle Washington as well. He's getting his helmet over, talking to his team. But Max, I talked to you ahead of this race, and we were talking about the mixed class racing, and that's something that you wanted to work on today. How did it go?
Honestly, yesterday I made a mistake, and I spent a lot of time last night reflecting on that and trying to figure out how I could be better, how I could be faster, how to be perfect. And honestly, I think I executed that pretty perfectly. I went out there, kind of stretched my legs in the beginning, got my fastest lap, and made that gap. After that, it was just all about conserving those tires, and I made Anthony work for it to try to catch up to me. I noticed a couple of times he really pushed to catch up, but at that point he burned off his tires, and I was just there conserving energy. So this was the ideal way in how to finish off the race, and the only regrets is I wish I could have had a perfect weekend, but that's why I'm here. I'm here to learn.
It was Tony McIntosh in race number 1, Max Hewitt in race number 2. That's a battle that we're going to see all season long in GT4. And as Kyle Washington gets the dab from Justin Rothberg, you guys made it such an entertaining day. Kyle, after Justin made the move back on you, what was the status of your Porsche at that point?
Oh, I think it's good. I think the boys got a lot of work to do on the floor because I was taking some curbs I normally wouldn't just to keep up with them. It was so fast. And then it was super dangerous where he passed me. We were both, I don't know if I breathed for another 30 minutes. It was awesome. That's the best race of the year that I've had.
Justin said it was so fun for him as well. How will you describe it?
It's just, it's cat and mouse the whole time. And, he'd be a little bit faster in sections and I'd catch him and then we'd go. And I think I touched him on 20 and he got a little loose. And then, it was just everything about racing happened in that race.
Calvin, you say it best. You absolutely love the racing in this series, and man, was that on display just then.
Yeah, it was a cool one. It was really one of the best. We're hoping for more of that action as we continue through the season, but championship is kind of shaping up nicely. That's going to be between these two drivers, but others want to be in that mix as well.
40 minutes or so ago, Justin Rothberg started the race from pole position. He was able to consolidate that lead over Kyle Washington in the early going. Same story for the GT4 pole sitter as well. Max Hewitt built the advantage. Tony McIntosh dealing with a loose exhaust pipe. That certainly didn't help him over the course of the race. Kyle Washington heaping the pressure on Justin Rothberg. He made a few aborted attempts to get by. This, though, is how he did get to the side of the BMW, and for a brief moment, at least, put the 32 Porsche in the lead of the race. Justin Rothberg, though, wasn't done yet. He was working on Washington for the better part of a lap, made a lunge, got to the outside. If they didn't touch, there wasn't much room, more than a paper's width between the two of them. But that put Rothberg into a lead he would not relinquish. Solid day from Raj Schwest, who had his first ever podium result in a GT3 race. Washington throwing everything he had, throwing haymakers at Justin Rothberg, but it wasn't enough. Rothberg out of turn 20, saw the checkered flag first, and wins race number 2 at Circuit of the Americas, and a race 2 win as well to Max Hewitt. Up next, a trip to Florida and Sebring International Raceway. We'll see you there.